Most people think adding years to their life takes something extreme, a major diet overhaul, or a demanding workout routine, or some complicated plan that's hard to stick to. But the data points in a very different direction. Just a few simple habits that take just a few minutes can make a very real difference. And when you combine them, they can add up to as much as 20 extra years to your life. There's a large study that actually looked at this across hundreds of thousands of people. It's called the Million Veteran Program Study, where researchers tracked veterans over time, and they looked at 8 different lifestyle factors. At age 40, the difference between doing none of these habits and doing most of them translated to more than 20 additional years of life, up to 24 years in men, and around 20 or more years in women. And here's the most important part. It was not all or nothing. Each additional habit added benefit. So you don't need to be perfect, you just need a few consistent signals repeated over time. And a lot of those signals can happen in the first 5 to 10 minutes of your day. So in this video, I want to show you a simple morning routine that anyone can do. And it's a routine that brings several of these together. Nothing complicated or extreme like cold plunges or taking weird supplements. Just a few high-impact habits that are simple and practical and very effective when you do them consistently. And as always, even though I'm a physician, I'm not your physician. So please talk to your doctor before making any changes in your health regimen, as this video is educational only and not medical advice. Now let's start with something very simple. It takes about 30 seconds and it costs very little. But it has surprisingly strong data behind it. A small handful of nuts in the morning is one of the easiest ways to add years to your life. So there was a study in the New England Journal of Medicine. It was a large prospective study where researchers tracked over 76,000 adults for 3 decades, and they found that participants who ate nuts 7 or more times per week had a 20% lower risk of death from any cause compared to people who never ate them. And this wasn't limited to just one type of nuts. Tree nuts, peanuts, walnuts all showed benefit. And here's why. Nuts are very dense with unsaturated fats, which can improve your heart health. And they're also a very good source of fiber and magnesium and vitamin E and an amino acid called L-arginine. L-arginine helps your body make nitric oxide, that special compound that helps your blood vessels relax and open up, which then supports healthy blood flow and healthy blood pressure. And if I had to choose one from the group, my personal favorite are walnuts. Walnuts are one of the few plant foods that provide ALA, or alpha-linoleic acid, which is a type of omega-3 fat. Omega-3s help your body make anti-inflammatory compounds at the cellular level. Most people think of fish when they hear omega-3s, and fish is an excellent source, but if you don't eat a lot of fatty fish, well, a daily handful of walnuts is a very simple way to get you a little closer to that goal. Now, let's pair that with something many of you are already doing every morning, drinking coffee. And this surprises a lot of my patients when I talk about it. But coffee is not just a caffeine delivery system. It has real, measurable benefits when it comes to longevity. And caffeine is not actually the main reason why. A large study published in JAMA Internal Medicine tracked hundreds of thousands of adults over time, and they found that drinking about 2 cups of coffee per day was associated with a 12% lower risk of death from any cause. But here's the really interesting part. Both caffeinated and decaffeinated coffee showed similar benefits, which tells you that caffeine is probably not the main driver here, and the benefit seems to come from other compounds in the coffee bean itself, specifically polyphenols and chlorogenic acid. So polyphenols are plant-based compounds that are antioxidants. That means they help neutralize free radicals, which are unstable molecules that damage cells over time. Think of them like sparks. Antioxidants help put those sparks out before they can start a fire and cause more damage. And chlorogenic acid works alongside that, and it also helps reduce inflammation and it helps regulate blood sugar. Now, if you don't drink coffee, well then green tea is a really good alternative. And the data there is also very strong. There's a pooled analysis of 8 studies in Japan that follow more than 300,000 participants for 17 years. And they found that drinking just 1 to 2 cups per day was associated with an 11% lower risk of cancer death. And a lot of that benefit appears to come from a compound called EGCG, or epigallocatechin gallate. EGCG has been shown to reduce inflammation. It supports healthy blood vessel formation, and it helps regulate sugar And all of those things help you reduce visceral fat. So whether it's coffee or green tea, your morning drink is already doing more for your biology than most people realize. Just keep it simple. Try not to add any sugar or flavored syrups. Just let the compounds in the drink do their job. Now, let's get to the part that almost never comes up in longevity conversations, even though it probably should. Because one of the strongest predictors of how long you live is not a food or a supplement, it's the quality of your social connections. And the effect here is much bigger than most people realize. There was a meta-analysis that looked at data from more than 300,000 people across multiple countries. And social isolation was associated with a 33% higher risk of death. And then persistent loneliness was associated with a 57% higher risk. And that's different from isolation because you can be surrounded by people all day and still feel lonely. And here's why this matters so much. Chronic isolation keeps your nervous system in a more stressed state. It keeps that flight or flight system turned on. I think of it like an alarm that never fully shuts off. And over time, that low-grade stress accelerates the same pathways that drive heart disease and diabetes and dementia. And this is probably why the Million Veteran Program study included positive social connection as one of its 8 longevity factors. Same tier as sleep and not smoking. But it rarely gets talked about, probably because you can't put it in a bottle and because for many of us, it's easier said than done. But the payoff is huge. So what does this look like on a normal morning? Well, it doesn't have to be anything dramatic. Instead of starting the day in isolation, like scrolling on your phone or jumping straight to work, turn that into a quick conversation with your partner. Or sit down for a few minutes to have a family breakfast instead of eating on the go to save time. Or it could be a short walk with your neighbor or a 5-minute phone call with someone you haven't checked in with in a while. It doesn't need to be long, but it does need to be real. Because the data suggests this is one of the most powerful longevity signals you can build into your life. Okay, the next habit costs nothing and it can take as little as 10 minutes. But it has a huge effect on how your body functions for the rest of the day, and that is getting morning sunlight. So the simpler version is try to get outside in the morning, especially that first 30-minute window after waking up. Or at the very least, sit near a bright window. Because the first light signal your body receives each morning helps set the biological tone for everything that follows, especially your sleep later that night. Deep inside your brain, there's a small structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. This is your master body clock. It helps you control when you feel alert or when you feel sleepy, when your hormones rise and fall, or when repair processes happen in your body. And the main signal that sets the clock for all of this is morning sunlight. And when that morning sunlight hits specialized receptors in your eyes, so these would be receptors that are separate from the ones you use for vision. Well, this is when your brain gets the message that the day has started. And your cortisol rises, which in the morning is a good thing. And it helps you wake up and be more alert. Your body temperature starts to climb. And this is very important. A timer starts for melatonin release later that night, usually about 12 to 16 hours later. And that matters because melatonin is the hormone that tells your body it's time for sleep. Many people think of melatonin as something you take in a pill, but your body actually makes it naturally. And the timing of that melatonin release depends a lot on when your eyes saw the light earlier in the day. So if you get outside around 7 in the morning, you're helping to program your body to feel sleepy around 9 or 10 that night. And that can mean falling asleep faster and sleeping more deeply and waking up feeling more rested. And sleep quality matters a lot. There's several different meta-analyses that pulled data from over 1.5 million people, and they found that sleeping less than 7 hours per night was associated with a 14% higher risk of death compared to people sleeping between 7 to 8 hours per night. And then a separate analysis estimated that optimal sleep quality can add anywhere from 1 to 3 years of healthy life expectancy. Not just more years, but healthier years. And no surprise, but sleep was one of the 8 lifestyle factors in that Million Veteran Program study. So just 10 minutes outside in the morning is already helping you on that front, before the rest of your day has even started. One practical point that a lot of people ask is on cloudy days you should still go outside because overcast lighting is still anywhere from 10 to 50 times brighter and has a higher lux number than anything you get inside. Now let's build directly on that, because if you're already outside getting morning light, this is the perfect time to stack one more habit on top of it, and that is walking. And when I say walking, I want to be clear about what the data actually requires here, because it's a lot less than what most people think. There's a landmark study out of Taiwan that followed over 400,000 people, and they found that walking just 15 minutes a day or 92 minutes per week reduced the risk of death from any cause by 14% and extended life expectancy by 3 years compared to being inactive. So this is a huge return on your time commitment for something as simple as a 15-minute walk. And there was a more recent study from last year. It was called the Southern Community Cohort Study. They followed near 85,000 adults, and they found that fast walking for just 15 minutes a day was associated with almost 20% lower risk of death. So different population, different researchers, but same basic finding. And here's the part that's really worth paying attention to. There was no minimum threshold people had to hit before they started seeing benefits. The biggest drop in risk happened when people went from doing nothing to doing something. Even a small amount of movement made a real difference. A meta-analysis that was published earlier this year found that increasing moderate activity by just 5 minutes a day, so going from 1 minute to 6 minutes, was associated with a 30% lower mortality risk. So this is where the routine really starts to stack. The Million Veteran Program included both physical activity and stress management as 2 of its 8 longevity factors. So if you take a walk outside in natural morning light, you're already combining 3 things at once. Circadian anchoring from morning sunlight, and physical activity, and stress reduction. And if you do that walk with your partner or a friend or a neighbor, well, now you're adding social connection as well. So just one brisk 15-minute walk every morning can touch 4 different longevity factors all at once. Now let's talk about the first real meal of the day, because what you eat in the morning really sets the tone for everything that follows later that day. Here's the pattern I see all the time. So someone wakes up and has a toast or a sweetened yogurt or a granola bar, or sometimes nothing at all. And they feel okay for an hour or two and then crash hard around 10 or 11 a.m. They're tired and hungry and already looking for a snack. That is not a willpower problem, it's a blood sugar problem. And it often spills into the rest of the day, including nighttime hunger. When you eat refined carbohydrates like pastries or many cereals or granola bars without protein or fiber, glucose enters the bloodstream very quickly. And insulin rises quickly. And then the rapid spike is often followed by a fast drop, which then leaves you tired and hungry and just stuck in the same cycle every couple of hours. This is why it's so important to get protein and fiber with your breakfast, because this is what helps you break that cycle. They slow down gastric emptying, meaning food moves out of your stomach a little bit more slowly, which then flattens the glucose curve. And protein and fiber help you support hormones involved in appetite regulation, including GLP-1, which is one of the same pathways used by drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, except here your body is doing it naturally in response to foods. Protein also matters because it helps preserve muscle, and muscle is one of the most important tissues in your body for blood sugar control, because muscle can absorb glucose very efficiently even without insulin. And fiber adds another layer. It helps support your gut microbiome, and it helps improve both your blood sugar and cholesterol. So a simple way to build both of those in is a morning shake. That's probably going to be your most time efficient option. You can use protein powder as the base and then add high fiber ingredients like chia seeds or flax seeds or small amounts of psyllium husk. So chia seeds will give you about 10 grams of fiber per ounce, and flax seeds will give you about 8 grams, and they'll also provide you with omega-3 fats. And psyllium is one of the most concentrated fiber sources out there, and it's about 7 grams per tablespoon. One quick word of caution though, if your body is not used to too much fiber, do not jump in too fast. So you want to start small and build up gradually, because otherwise you can get a lot of bloating or GI discomfort. And make sure you're hydrating well, because fiber needs water to work properly. So too much fiber with not enough water can lead to bad constipation. The general recommendation is usually 8 to 10 ounces of water per dose of fiber, but that really depends on everyone's individual profile and the type of fiber used. So please talk to your doctor about the correct ratio of water to fiber before you add this to your regimen. And if you have more time, another good option is a breakfast built around eggs and Greek yogurt and high fiber breads. So I would shoot for breads like sourdough or rye bread, but always check the label. Terms like whole grain and multigrain can sometimes be misleading, and a lot of food companies use it to their advantage. Some of those breads still have very little fiber and have the same fiber content as white bread. So a simple rule to follow is for every 10 grams of carbohydrates, you want at least 1 gram of fiber. So if your bread has 30 grams of carbs per slice, you should have at least 3 grams of fiber. And ideally, we want to push that fiber number even higher, up to 4 or 5 grams per slice. Now, if you put all those things together, you've already touched on 5 of those 8 longevity factors from the Million Veteran Program study. And if you also don't smoke and don't drink excessive amounts of alcohol, well, now you're at 7 out of 8, all before 9 in the morning. And as always, you don't need a perfect routine to see some benefit. Some days you'll do all 5, and some days you'll only do 2, but even 2 or 3 of those done consistently can compound into many more healthy years over time. I hope this was helpful. Stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.